Welcome, guys. So, I am going to start making some more dedicated content here on YouTube and potentially upload it to Spotify for audio only, but it will go better with some visual cues. So, anyways, welcome to the show. This is going to be called Simplifying Programming. And the first episode here, I'm just going to introduce myself and talk about what the show is going to be about. So, the problem with competitive fitness athletes, and it's not the problem with them as people, but the issue that they run into is that there's so much to think about, especially in the sport of CrossFit. And it can feel overwhelming and there's too many boxes to check. And so this podcast is going to serve to give you some assessments that you can do on yourself and how to interpret that data to inform your training, right? Athletes typically don't have trouble working really hard. They don't shy away from doing a lot of volume. They do tend to have a hard time identifying where their hard work should be directed. And so that is the purpose of this show, how to direct your training and where to spend your effort as a competitive functional fitness athlete. So, a little bit about myself. I have completed the OPEX CCP. I did that back in 2022 and 2023. I have a Bachelor of Science in Neurobiology from the University of Oregon. I also got the minor in chemistry when I was doing my coursework. In 2021, I purchased a gym, and my history of coaching folks one on one is about 20 masters and open age group athletes from the level of quarterfinals all the way up to games caliber athletes. And so I started my athletic career and my coaching career with rowing. Initially, I competed as an athlete through high school. And then when I graduated from high school, I started coaching a little bit here and there. And that's really where my love for coaching developed. I started doing CrossFit in 2017. And currently, I coach at my gym, I manage my gym. I coach plenty of athletes individually online. And for fun, I just really like anything that's competitive and racing related. And so I've been getting really into simulation racing, much to the dismay of my wife, as I spend probably too much time in front of the screen pretending that I'm a race car driver. So, what is this show about? So, the show is going to serve to help athletes make informed training decisions, understanding how to address weaknesses and how to train based on the level that they currently are. In addition to that, we will go over assessments to figure out where you should slot yourself into a progression. And then we're going to talk about understanding how to progress through all the levels of competition and what each of those individual competition levels require of the athlete. And so, as we move through this, my goal is to give you a decision making framework. So, this is not going to be a program that you will follow. This is information that you can use and apply to yourself to allow you to get the most out of your training and your time in the gym. There is a finite amount of time that you can spend in the gym exercising productively and training productively. And so your time comes at a premium and the energy that you have to work out comes at a premium. And so my goal is to help you decide what is your lowest hanging fruit. What are the things that you should be focusing on to turn you into the most competitive athlete that you can be? The overarching approach that we are going to use when addressing really anything as it relates to CrossFit is going to be identifying what the mobility requirements are of any given movement or type of movement, identifying the strength that is required to first successfully complete a rep, but then also to be competitive in the sport. After we've identified what those things are, we can apply that to our training. You can decide if you need to work on your mobility or gain strength, or if you are capable of doing the movements and you have the requisite strength to do the movements or the prescribed weights that are present in competition, then we can move on to talking about how to develop volume and increase our movement economy in different movements. And that can be something like barbell cycling. This can be technical changes that you can make to the snatch. These are things that are going to make you a better mover and make the movements appear like they don't challenge you very much. And so we'll work on developing that. And then once folks have the ability to do the movement very well with very little energy expenditure, then we can go into talking about how to do several reps of that movement in a row how to stress the movement appropriately so that you aren't just slamming yourself into a wall every time you do it. And so that's kind of going to be the overarching approach for how we will analyze a movement and identify where within the progression you fall and how to address that depending on where in that progression you are. And so to give you an example here, we'll go over the ring muscle up. And so the first question that we should be asking when we look at a ring muscle up is, if you can't do one, do you have the mobility and the strength to do one, right? Can you get your shoulder into really deep flexion and extension so that you can get into a really deep ring dip, and you can also go through the full range of motion on a kipping swing to maximize your efficiency? Are you able to do a pull up? Can you pull yourself all the way up on the rings? Can you transition over? Do you have the hip strength and the core strength to transition yourself over on top of the rings? And can you do a ring dip? Do you have the stability in your shoulders and the strength in your shoulders and your pecs to push yourself up off of the rings and into full extension at the top of the rep, right? Once we have determined whether or not you can do that, then we will look at doing volume and movement economy. Can you do 30 to 40 reps in a workout, in a training session, even? And if that's not the case, then how do we get you to that point, right? When we move on from there, we look at, can you do set sizes, right? So it's one thing to be able to do 30 to 40 reps in a training session. It's another thing to be able to do 30 to 40 reps in sets of 8 to 12, right? Because that is generally what we're finding as the upper end of the rep range that you're going to see in competition, right? For movement economy, does the movement feel very easy, right? Do you do it and make it look effortless? That is what we are going for here, right? Moving forward, once we have checked those boxes, then it becomes a question of how much stress can we apply to the system while still executing our muscle ups with sets of 8 to 12 and still being able to successfully do 30 to 40 reps in a workout, right? And so, can you do several ring muscle ups after doing 10 really heavy power cleans? What about if you just rode a 2K? Can you get on the rings and do 15 unbroken ring muscle ups? And if you can't, how do we get there? And that's what the final step is going to be in talking about how we can move from one end of the spectrum to the other. And so in future episodes, what we are going to do is identify what these typical mobility and strength limitations are in your gymnastics movements. And there's a list here on the screen of all of the different gymnastics movements that are important for you to be able to do in the sport of CrossFit. And we'll look at the same thing for weightlifting, and we'll look at that for aerobic fitness as well, right? And then from there, we will look at whether or not movement economy is an issue for you. And if it is, how to address that. And if movement economy looks good, if you can do the requisite volume, but you're having trouble putting things together in the context of a workout, we'll identify ways to bridge that gap, right? And so first we will go over general ideas based on gymnastics, weightlifting, and aerobic fitness. And then I will go into even more detail within more more detailed episodes on how to exactly target ring muscle ups, how to exactly target handstand push-ups, but the framework will always be very similar. It'll change a little bit for aerobic fitness since the strength and mobility demands are quite easy for aerobic fitness relative to gymnastics and weightlifting. But that has a lot more to do with repetition and stress and volume, and that those are important things that we want to make sure that we are moderating when we are looking at aerobic fitness and gymnastics and weightlifting as well. So that is what you can expect from future episodes of the podcast. Right. So please like and comment and subscribe. It really helps me out. Leave questions in the comments if you have questions about anything particularly. If you've got certain requests for movements that you would like to see me go over first, put those in the comments. And then, of course, follow me on Instagram. And if you have any more individual questions or you want to start working together, shoot me a DM on Instagram, or you can send me an email. My email is there on the screen.